we have a very special guest, and we're going to hear some very, very strange stories. We have Tamara Brooks, and she's a paranormal experiencer. And Tamara, my very first question to you is I've been to your home, I've done an investigation there, we got a lot of evidence, but has paranormal activity, have you ever witnessed that before the time that I came over there to investigate your home?
Before or after? Before?
Before, yeah.
Oh, yes. We bought this property in we got married in 1990. So we bought this property in 1991. And from the day I did the escrow closed, I had the keys in my hand and took my brother in the back of the home. And that was the original house here. Things started happening. And so it's been 34 years.
Wow.
And oh yeah, I'm sorry. So from the time that you've been here a couple times. It's never stopped.
Never stop. And can you explain to Phil and Zandine in the audience what kind of paranormal activity were you having at the house?
How far back do you want to go?
Go all the way back. We got time.
Okay. So originally, again, like I said, when we closed escrow, I walked in the house with my brother, who was a carpenter, and I was having him come in to look at the things that had to be done because the house, like I said, was built in 1919, 1920. And so I said, okay, I want this wall taken down. Da 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 da. It was all hardwood floors. I mean, in my point of view, it was beautiful. In someone else's point of view, probably no, because it was old and run down. When I see those things, I'm a construction brat for my dad. So anyhow, it started right away when we closed escrow. From there, we had the fun type of things happening, and that means like uh, we'd hear I'd hear my kitchen cupboard doors open and shut during the night. I had bought my kids back in that day was Toy Story. So all my kids had the Toy Story figurines that talked. And at some point, my 7 and 6-year-old said, "Mom, get these toys out of our room because they won't shut up." So what I did, I took them out of their room, I put it in my room, in our room, and we had at that time a big canopy bed, and I put it on top of the bed. And sure enough, they would not shut up. So then we heard them all night long. So we knew what the kids were going through. They were hearing that. And then people were telling us, oh, it's probably just old batteries. No, we changed the batteries. It was not that. And so at that point, we knew something was going on in the house. And with that said, my mom had bought my husband for Father's Day a cup, and he loves San Francisco Giants. And the cup played the song "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," but it would only sing that song if you literally picked it up. Then it would say "Take me out to the ball game." And during the night, we kept hearing "Take me out to the ball game," and that cup was in a solid hutch. And we're like, what's going on? How can that cup be lifted up? And so that's how things started. And that's, there was more things after that. My child, who was at the time 2 months old, was in that car seat that a hospital gives you for a carrier. She was on the couch. My daughters and I were in another room talking. We heard like a soft noise in the living room. Dude, the car seat was on the floor of the house. And she was just sitting in there in her car seat. And we're like, what the hell? How could that be? How could a car seat be lifted off the couch onto the ground, onto the floor? That's when we knew right away that, oh my God, we bought a haunted house. And so that was in when that happened with my daughter, who is now 31, Yeah, it had only been 3 years since we had the house. So it started off pretty quick. And then
Wow.
again, after that, a lot more stuff.
You know, I've been on something like 2,500 investigations. So I've been on a lot, and a lot of stuff just becomes gray area. I I can hardly remember what happened here or what happened here. Well, when we came over to your home, you said we went there 2 times. What was some of the evidence that we got? Can you
Um,
refresh my
yeah.
memory?
And there was the rest of your team actually, come through the property, the barn. We have a big barn. There was some activity out in the barn. You caught a picture of an orb out there. And when I saw that picture, I thought, oh my God, kind of going off a little bit. My daughter passed away in 2009. And when I saw that orb, it looked like her side view. And I
Oh,
was like,
that's right.
blown
Okay.
away.
Okay. Yeah. So it did. It kind of resembled her face.
Yes. And
Oh,
then
yeah. Okay.
and not to mention, you also had 3 scratches on your arm when you walked the property.
Okay. Okay.
And then that to me tells me that, okay, we have some good stuff going on, maybe, but then there's some maybe malevolent stuff going on as well. And so after that point is when things really became dark to where, yeah, I mean, there's some dark things that happened after that. So it
Wow.
started off fun and then that dark.
And when we left your house after the second investigation, we went to Madison Mansion. Are you familiar with
Yeah.
that, Tamara?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know too much about that though. I know.
Oh, boy, did we learn a lot. Okay, we went to Madison Mansion, and I heard they tore it down.
Yeah.
Um, and this is out by Esparto. And
Yes.
and Phil and Zandine, when we went to this place, there was nothing but satanic graffiti all over inside the mansion and outside the mansion.
It's crazy.
And we were getting crazy EVPs on the side of the house. And then here comes 3 Yahoos, and they're laughing and everything, and they close the gate on us. So we're on private property, and they close the gate on us, and we can't get out. So we're driving through this farmland, and we finally, through GPS and everything else, we finally found an exit and got out of there. But that place was crazy haunted, and her house is very close to Madison Mansion.
4 miles.
It's like 4 miles.
4 miles.
Okay, and then right up the road you have what is that casino right up the road from your house?
Cash Creek.
Cash Creek. That Cash Creek, a lot of people don't realize it, is also too very haunted, and I think it's because it's on Indian burial ground or something like that. But there's paranormal activity in the lobby, so she's actually in a location where there's just all kinds of crazy things going on. And now, what's happening now to Tamara at your house?
Um, it's been quiet except for it's almost like just talking to you that I hate to say this, but um it's almost like something knows that I've spoken with you, that I had this appointment with you in the show or something because a lot of activities now started up in the last week. And I mean, it's corny, but and it's fun. It's not nothing bad, thank God. But behind me, there's a TV tray, and I had a ball on there that my cats and the dog play with, and I picked it up, put it on there because I was watching Lifetime, and all of a sudden I hear it bouncing on the floor. I'm like, and I look at my bed, and my cat and my dog are still there, just asleep. And I'm like, oh my God. So somehow it jumped off the TV tray, got on the floor, it was bouncing. Um, And then 2 years ago, prior 2 years ago, um, I did something that is not in my character, but I did it anyway. I bought one of those, I don't know, it was like 20, like if you can, it was like an energy type thing that, like to, not a ghost tracker, but it's supposed to like, if there's some type of energy, it'll pick it up, like a gauge. So I was looking around the house because I mean, this has been going on forever. And, I was in where my main computer is in the far kitchen. And I was, looking and I saw that it was going up to red and then nothing was going on though. And I was like, well, this is dumb. I go, how corny is this? And as soon as I said that, a pencil that was on my table, which I call the cat table, a pencil rolled all the way down to the end of the table, stopped. And I flew out of my chair because I was on my computer, on my desktop. I ran out. My husband's in the living room, and I'm going, Sam, I swear to God, a pencil just rolled all the way down and stopped. And I was like, oh my God, it's not in my head. Absolutely no way. And so that was the biggest thing, except for the bouncing ball the other day, last week.
Then when we conducted an investigation at your house, did I do a blessing of your house? I can't recall.
You blessed my house. You also baptized me in my bathtub. And the reason for that is because I was telling you that things went dark. And it went really dark. I was noticing my husband and I was separated for a while. And I was waking up with bruises in places that there was no way that I could have put them there myself. And it got to the point where I wouldn't even tell the doctor anything, because they would have said, you're confused or you're crazy. And I just kept it to myself. My family saw it, but I could not explain it ever. How do you tell your kid, I'm being attacked in the middle of the night? That's when you came in and you blessed the property and you baptized me. And I have not had a bruise since.
Oh, good. So I was successful.
I think it was like 214, Paul, maybe 215.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I was a fairly new investigator at the time. So that's why I was asking you if I blessed the house or not, because.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It made a difference, but it's coming back a little bit. But yeah, not in a bad way, knock on wood. We'll see how it goes.
And also too, in the area, the Zandians go like this. In the area that you live at, there has been reports, like when you drive over to Cache Creek, people have seen UFOs off in the side in the night sky. Have you experienced anything like that?
I've seen, okay, I'm only 8 miles from Cache Creek.
Okay.
So what I have seen are things south of our property. And every time I see something, my husband is just like, it's got to be a plane. It's got to be a plane or something. But I haven't, it's not like so substantial to where I'm going, oh my God, not like a huge thing. But I'm seeing weird things, but that just comes and goes. And again, that is not my field. I know nothing about UFOs. So yeah, I see something, but my husband says it's probably just in Europe. Or a plane. Or a plane.
And to the Paranormal Soul brother, did you know about the UFO activity going towards Cache Creek Casino?
I did. And pretty much around all the Indian lands, you'd be surprised. It seems like they have different rules when it comes to those sacred lands. Because what she's talking about, and Red Hawk and Thunder Bay, there's a couple of places where, yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised. The Indian land.
Yeah, Indian land, yeah. And that's why Cash Creek too is that casino. I used to go there a lot, but yeah, yeah, and then yeah, that whole area in the lobby they say is haunted.
Well, the Indians, if you probably talk to any indigenous tribe in that area, I'm sure they probably have stories of seeing, you know, probably even other people come down, more than just the UFOs. I'm sure those native tribes have stories. So that would be interesting to see the extent of
It's
it
all
in that
still
area.
in there. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know any. My kids now grew up with the kids from the tribe,
Okay.
but
Wow.
I I just myself I've never heard any stories about anything going any paranormal stuff going up there at the casino or in. But yeah, I mean, I have the best view. If you were to look at my Facebook, you could see I have the best view, and
Wow.
so I do see lights, and I'm like, you know,
You just don't have you probably don't, you haven't invested in a camera or infrared. You probably get you
that's
a
true,
nice camera, and you'd be surprised because you're gonna see they're gonna merge these two fields, the paranormal and the ufology thing, because really like those energies, they're fun, they're connected. So I'm not surprised, if you see stuff and you just don't have anybody to affirm it, you've probably seen some really nice stuff and couldn't zoom in on it.
right? Yes, that's what I
I'm
thought.
sure of
That's what I thought.
it.
And I have a question for Phil and for Tamara. They both have something in common. They both like old houses. So I'm going to ask Phil first. Why do you like old houses?
Um, I grew up in a lot of old houses. We moved around a lot, but one of the houses in particular that I spent some time in was built before the Revolutionary War,
Mm.
and I
Right.
loved that house, even though it definitely was haunted. I heard voices there, and there was one
Wow.
room in particular that was always cold, much colder than the rest of the house. And when we moved in, it still had some belongings there from the previous person who lived there, who was actually a priest, and he had left his robes, all of his priest robes, and all that stuff was still in there. And I actually
Man.
wore
Okay.
like the one that goes like from here all the way down to your feet with like a million buttons. He left
Yeah.
that in. I wore that to school, to high school one year for a Halloween costume. Yeah, I mean, everything was in there. There was also a guy who was an attorney who served with Richard Nixon during World War II, and all of his court documents and cases and stuff that he had worked on
Yeah.
were in that back room. And it's funny, every time I
Good
went in that
Lord.
room, I could never stay in that room for more than like 10, 15 minutes without having to leave the room and having to go to the bathroom. That's the weirdest thing. It's kind of gross, but for some reason, no more than 10, 15 minutes, and I would have to run and use the bathroom. So I don't know if the ghost could make you have to go
Respect.
to the bathroom, but maybe it was a way for the ghost to get me out of there. Like they didn't want me in that room. But I was a nosy kid, and I would love reading through those, especially the old court cases, because this guy was an attorney, and there were even like rape cases and stuff, like robberies, all sorts of. He was a criminal attorney, so I mean, I read all those cases, and there were cases from the 40s and 50s and all that stuff. It was pretty
Wow.
cool
Wow.
stuff.
It's crazy.
So that's why I like old houses. And I'm a history buff. I've done documentaries, things like that. So
And
plus
so,
feel better.
so Phil, the impression I got of you in an old house is that you're got a blanket over you and you got your flashlight inside the blanket. I guess that's wrong.
No, I've never been afraid of ghosts. In fact, I love scary movies. So I also love roller
Heck yeah.
coasters and things like that.
Oh
Never been
yeah.
afraid of that kind of stuff. So yeah. Plus, I've also took architecture in high school, and I absolutely love. They don't build houses like that anymore. You'll never find a new house built as well as an old house was built. You won't find the materials like that used anymore. The
Yeah. That's
the
for sure.
architecture isn't like that anymore. The ornate detail on things as simple as a doorknob, or the moldings, the cornices, things like that. They just They don't make them like they used to, and they never will make them like that again.
Yeah, and didn't they have like those crystal doorknobs or
Yeah,
those?
Tamara was mentioning that before we started recording. Yeah, absolutely. And that, I believe that was around the 1920s. Those were popular. They were actually like crystal doorknobs, see-through doorknobs.
Oh yeah, I still got a bunch of them.
Yeah, they were real popular. You can still find them at thrift stores where people salvaged them from old houses.
I
Some of
grew up
the
in the
old
Victorians, in the San Francisco, so it was old houses, good
were
lord.
popular. Some of the even older ones were like brass doorknobs that actually were like molded brass or carved brass, and they're even more ornate in their detail. Those old skeleton keys that people talk about that the new generation
Yeah,
probably don't even know what those things are anymore. But the old skeleton
yeah,
keys.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you
Dig
just don't see things like that anymore. And I grew up going to antique shops, things like that with my grandparents, and yeah, just always took. I've got a guitar on the wall from 1899.
Oh,
So I mean, yeah, I dig old stuff like
It sounds like you would have a lot of fun with the American pickers.
that. Absolutely.
hey,
Well,
Phil, what about those steam heaters, man, that they have in those old places? What do you think about all those
oh
old steam
yeah,
heaters?
the old radiators or radiators, depending on what
Yeah, man.
you're from. Yeah, and the noise they would make. I think modern kids
Yeah,
will never hear that noise, but you and I we know what that noise sounds like when those things go off. Yeah.
the hardwood floors, man.
Oh,
That's in the East Coast, though, right? The radiators and stuff.
I was in San
yeah.
Francisco, a bunch of old, but I'm sure the East Coast for sure. I would be willing to bet
Oh,
for
you're from
sure.
San Francisco? Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
think
black
wherever
Oh,
it was
wow.
cold, wherever it was cold in certain parts of the country, that steam was the thing. For a certain period of time in this country, steam was the way.
Yeah,
As long as you were in a cold part of the country, that was the technology. The pronunciation is definitely, I'm sure in San Francisco it's probably a radiator.
Radiator.
In New Jersey, it was a radiator.
Oh.
So,
yeah. Radiator.
yes.
And Tamara, why do you like old houses?
Pretty much everything that Phil was just talking about, the characteristics in the older homes you're not going to see in these new homes. You're just not going to. And if you think about it, there's just to move into a place where there's history, unknown history at that, and then you find out from yourself. Um, uh, I mean, in my case, I did go down to the county and find out the person's name that actually owned our property in the 20s. He was a rich stockbroker, and he was like 35. And I guess the market crashed at